Hello, minimum presentation this time. It's really a glorified answer to a comment. Right, the comment's there, open presentation. What an interesting admonishment in the close of this video. In essence, a call for the individual to actually think for himself or herself. Yet for countless generations in European culture, and 4 or 5 generations in American culture, the individual has been educated to subjugate himself to the greater good, to the grand social order, to the state. Okay. Now, I think that's a bit odd to start with. I would say that 100 years ago, 200 years ago, there was a lot more education that the individual should subjugate himself to the greater good, to the grand social order. If anything, I would say that that was tapering off, not expanding. No? Our great-great-great-grandfathers weren't so, let's say, selfish. They did what they did because it was the right thing to do. It was for the greater good. Is it any wonder that the masses feel compelled, and perfectly comfortable, to leave the thinking to the experts, or to go along with collective wisdom? It is now accepted as self-evident that the individual is insignificant when there is a greater cause to be served. And again, that's just a repeat of the first paragraph, I think, and I still don't agree with it one paragraph later. I think the individual has been pumped up by advertising and something, that they are something and apart and different and individuals, where in our grandfather's day they were not looked upon, well, my grandfather's day anyway, not looked upon individuals. They were looked upon as things to subjugate themselves to the greater good. A war came, it was just from the bottom ranks to the top ranks. What you did was sign up and go and do your duty for king and country. It just would not happen now because the people are being told that they're individuals. I think the first 2 paragraphs are arse about face. Socialism promises a safety net for all. Now this is a bit of a jump over to socialism. Socialism promises a safety net for all. The masses now believe this. They have been trained to believe it. It is universally accepted as fact. Socialism promises a safety net for all. In essence, the message from the system is, the system will take care of you. The logical derivative of this social contract in the mind of the individual is, I will be taken care of, therefore, I don't need to worry about taking care of myself. I am most curious to know why you think the masses would be inclined to think in any other fashion. Now, this looks to me, because it's up in there in the first paragraph, what an interesting admonishment in the close of this video. In essence, you call for the individual to actually think for himself, yet countless generations in European culture. Now, this seems to me a comparison between American culture and European culture. So the accusation is, in essence, the message from the system, the European system, is the system will take care of you. The logical derivative of this social contract in the mind of the individual is, I will be taken care of. Therefore, I don't need to worry about taking care of myself. Wrong. Right? I'll tell you how it works. The European system, to the best of my knowledge, I'm no expert on this. The European system does say there is a social contract and the system will take care of you. There is a safety net. So in the mind of the individual, you do think, I will be taken care of. But the error comes in here. Therefore, I don't need to worry about taking care of myself. That is the error. The social safety net is there, but you don't loll, you just don't lie on it all the time. That's not what you do, because that's not what humans do, because they are individuals. They stand up and they do their own thing with the safety net behind them. Yeah? Right. I'll give you the grey area and then might come back to repeating that because it's important. There'll always be a grey area. It's a nasty little band that'll always be there with this social safety net thing, where some poorly paid people, or part of the 10% that'll always be in a population that are a bit, let's just say, lazy. That just covers it. It's very hard for them to get people out of that lazy atmosphere, that lazy level down at the, let's say it's at the bottom, and say that there are about 10% in there. When you've got a social safety net, it's easy to it's easy to stay there, but it's hard to get them out of there, because it's hard to make a job so much more worthwhile that it's worth those lazy people getting off their arses to go and do it. So there's always a grey band above the lazy level before you get to the rest of the population. But the rest of the population is at least 85%, who, if they take any notice of the safety net, is just in the knowledge that the insurance that they pay in taxes, that the safety net is there if they happen to fall in either losing their jobs or health or whatever it might be. The safety net is there, but for the rest of the time, this is not right. I do not need to worry about taking care of myself. It's completely wrong for the 85% in all occasions. And when other occasions are going on, that might go to 90 or up to sometimes 92, 93% if things are going well. But you'll always, in all populations, have that 7-10% of people who are impossible to get out of bed, let's say. But this is a grotesque American reading of the European system. And the grotesqueness comes into that with the I don't need to worry about taking care of myself. And then the implication that how would the individual people be inclined to think in any other fashion except I'm being taken care of. The idea is, the implication is that the Europeans are just lying on their safety net, siesting all the time, or most of the time, or some of the time, whatever. It's just not true. The safety net is there and is utterly ignored for 85% of the people who just stand up and just get on with their lives. And it's normally 90% of the people. But there are people, the 85% are dropping onto the social net and out of it. And as I repeat, there's always the lower band of can't get out of bedders that you'll get in any country at any time. And I'm not sure that putting them in the workhouse or not paying them or having them lying around on the streets is a better thing to do, but they will always be a problem. Repeat. I'll just repeat before I go into the next thing. But for 85% of the people, sometimes 90%, the safety net is just there and they just get on with their normal lives like normal people. Right. I'll just talk about the French election that's going on at the moment in comparison to the American election that's going on at the moment. From, I think, today's Guardian, but I just got it off as a representative so I could talk about the political parties and the characters in the French presidential election at the moment. Much still hinges on the other candidates' scores. Polls show the radical leftist, so where's left? Here. That's radical leftist Jean-Luc Mélenchon vying with the extreme right, far-right candidate Marine Le Pen for third place. What their voters decide to do in the second round is key. We don't need to go into the details, but we've got a far left and a far right. And in fifth, down at the bottom here, in fifth place, the centrist François Bayrou, he goes on more about green things and whatever, could still prove a kind of kingmaker. Okay, so in the French politics, which is much more active from what I can see than the American, you've got François Bayrou here at the centrist at the bottom, let's say the green candidate here. You've got the far left candidate, a far right candidate, you've got the middle left candidate and the centrist right candidate. But note that Francois Bayrou down at the bottom with 10%, these two with 15%, and then the other two fighting out. There's a lot of political activity going on. There's a lot of political activity going on. There's a lot of choice. When there's a lot of choice, there's a lot of discussion. And when there's a lot of discussion, there are lots of thoughts and ideas that come forward. What do you have in the United States of America? You can have Cheech or Chong. Cheech or Chong. There's no comparison at all. But I'm going to go back to the start thing. I think that those first two paragraphs are just plain wrong. It isn't that we're being taught to be individuals, that we were allowed to be individuals generations ago. It's just you've got it completely arse about face. We are individuals now, where in our grandfathers' generations we were parts in the social cog. We all work together for the greater good, but we don't now. It might be important to get that right again, to lower this idea that we're all so important, self-important individuals, and knock us down a little bit and put us back into working for the greater good, for the grand social order. No? No, perhaps not.